All right, we're live. Yo, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the show. If you're new here, my name is Mitchell. In today's episode, I'll be talking about ignoring your inner truth. So I do these YouTube lives every Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time, Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And if you guys do find this video content of value, you guys can show your appreciation by donating any amount that you feel is equal to the value of this video. Details will be in the description. Hold on, give me a second. I gotta fix my camera a little bit. All right. Yo, what's up, Darlene? How are you? Yo. All right, so ignoring inner truth today. So this particularly hit home a little bit because for the past few years, what's up, Brie? Past few years, all I've been doing is like I have a lot of internal dialogue and I speak to myself a lot. Some of y'all already know I stare at a wall sometimes and I just start laughing. Am I crazy? To some people maybe. But also I was having a great time, right? I was not hallucinating. So yeah, I was having a good time, and it's because I had a great time listening to my own thoughts, okay? I don't know how weird that sounds. Uh what's up, Greg? Aloha. Are you in Hawaii right now? What's going on? All right, so ignoring your inner truth, that's one of the most dangerous routes that anyone could take. And I don't want to give everything away, but this is more of like a foreshadow, right? You already know what's coming up. But what happens when you ignore your inner truth, that's your truth. Whatever you consistently tell yourself, that is the truth. And if you don't listen to that, and there is conflicting external messages of what you're telling people and what you're actually feeling, you're gonna find yourself constantly lying to yourself. Constantly lying to yourself. And when that happens and you continue to lie to yourself more and more and more, yeah, things happen. Hold on. Something happened with the audio. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Okay. All right. So anyways, let's talk about the recap episode, and now we'll be discussing about the other slides that I have. Okay, so the recap is how to regain your center and why, and the slide is on why it is important. So if you guys are interested, I have that video up somewhere on my Instagram, so go check that out if you haven't already. So how to regain your center. And the reason why regaining your center is so important is because you're going to wake up one day and you're not going to have the best time, right? Sometimes some people need coffee to get up and be like, oh, and other times people drink tea, whatever floats your boat. But whatever it is, there's going to be days where you're not going to feel too well. And when you don't feel well, how do you operate? And when you operate from that, little things could kind of like icks or whatever that could like bother you, and that might come across to other people where just because you're having a shitty day, you're gonna put it out on other people, and that's not, and usually it doesn't end well, right? Because if you give attitude, someone's gonna give it back to you, right? So anyways, that's why how to regain your center back or become more at a natural relaxed state is a lot better, because here's why. When you regain your center, it puts you in a better mood. You're more calm. You're a better person. You're better company for other people. You're less flustered. You think faster. And what I mean by thinking faster is that you have mental agility. So you ever notice when you're having a good time, you're laughing, and you're just talking to your friends, and you're in this, what would you call it? Like this high feeling, this mental agility, like it just comes naturally, right? And people love that natural feeling. Like people pay, let's put it like this, people pay good money to get to that state, you know what I mean? So you get this mental agility, you're more welcoming, you like I said, and you're better company. Hold on, son. I don't know what's going on with my audio, sorry. Yo, do you guys just hear it from one side? That's what I'm getting right now. You know what? I'm just gonna have to deal with it. But anyways, so you're more welcoming, you're better company, and things around you, you perceive it as more positive thoughts versus things that's usually associated with negative feelings, right? So you're less likely to be angry, less likely to be frustrated. um and angry and frustrated are two different things. I'm still trying to define it a little bit better before I start explaining it, but it's two different things. But just think of, being angry as something external that just happened right away, versus frustrated is through a situation. Is usually it takes longer time, right? Like, you could think about something and still be frustrated that happened months ago. You know what I mean? Like, it takes time. So that's my thoughts on angry and being frustrated. But yeah, it's how you perceive things, it's how you look at things, it's how you view the world through whatever lens that you have, and that's how you're going to act accordingly. Is how you act, how you feel about yourself. So when you're quick to anger, it's usually because something you want isn't being met, right? So maybe it's coming from a partner, right? Maybe, hey, it could be as simple as you ask for chicken and they got you beef, right? You get angry, right? But like, hey, if you're in a better mood, you'd be like, you know what, baby, thank you for even getting me food, right? Thank you for getting me food. It's okay. I'll be all right. I will survive, right? Just things like that, right? But people tend to make small things into big ass problems, right? And look, at the end of the day, you can always ask yourself, can I resolve this myself? And if I can, how am I going to do it? And if I can, then I won't need to be mad at that person. And being angry is usually because your needs are not being met and you're in a fearful place. So for whatever it is, that fear of, your lady or whoever getting you that chicken, and you want to beef or whatever. Hey, how are you going to solve that? How are you going to solve that problem? Well, go outside and buy it yourself. That's a quick way to resolve it, right? But also, what I appreciate about what Coach talked about is the quickest way to regain your center back as a guy is become more masculine. And what I mean by that is, and hear me out before you chew me out, right? Is when you're more masculine. Masculine energy is calm energy. It's keeping a light, playful, and fun. It's you're dangerous, but you're also kind. Where you don't take shit from other people, but you also don't lose your shit. So that's my perception of masculinity, right? And also going through for what you want to. Are you taking risk? Calculated, of course. Are you taking risk? Are you moving through life with a purpose? Do you have something that you truly love and you're going for it, right? So all those things kind of like encapsulates what is masculinity. So thanks for hearing me out. All right, so regaining your center, you're more patient. You will start to attract better people. It allows people and life circumstances to easily and effortlessly manifest into your life. So that's what's gonna happen, because you become what you want to attract, and whatever you're putting out there, that's what you're gonna be receiving. So be careful how you treat people, right? Be careful how you speak to people, and I have a story for that as well. You must become what you want to attract. You also increase compassion and empathy for other people. And when you have empathy and they feel heard and you understand them, they're automatically going to give you their time. They're gonna be more invested into you as well. Now, of course, you're occasionally going to get those people where it's only about them, and when you need to talk to them, they don't give you their time. You're still going to encounter those people, but you're going to be more sensitive to those people. Meaning, once you sense that how come it's always me putting out that energy, and when it comes down to me like asking for help, or because we're still human at the end of the day, and I have some issues that I would like to discuss to you about, and they're not there to try to listen. So you're like, what, I picked this up real quick because Mitchell said this one time, and yeah, I don't want to fuck with you no more like that. So yeah, that you're more sensitive to those type of people. All right. Let's see. You're more likable. Who doesn't want to be liked, right? And how this relates? How does this relate? When you start listening to your inner truth, back to the topic of today, you're digging deeper, right? And digging deep requires courage. So courage means also you need to allow room for vulnerability, right? And vulnerability allows courage. It it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable too. So I think those work interchangeably. So courage, and often you will find things that you're not very pleasant about, right? But by doing so, you're taking a lot of weight off of your shoulders. So, you know, a lot of self-help is, yes, you want to move forward. You want to take accountability and responsibility for your own actions, but at the same time, you also have a lot of childhood past traumas that you got that you might need to let go. You know what I mean? So not everything is going to be, easy. And, a lot of the self help that a lot of people don't talk about is it requires a lot from you. And you got to constantly be thinking about yourself. So yes, you do have to be a little selfish. So yeah, you're gonna hurt some feelings, some people's feelings, because they're like, hey yo, you changed. You don't hang out with us anymore. It's like, it's not that I don't want to hang out with y'all. I just enjoy my time a little bit more, because you start speaking to yourself and you have a better relationship with yourself. And that's the best relationship you could ever have. It's the relationship you have with yourself. And once you have that great relationship with yourself, you're going to be better company for other people. And then finding your center again will be so much easier, because, hey, like I said, I'm human. I wake up when days are not, I'm not happy. I'm not excited about life. But I'm like, you know what? I'm grateful, right? That's why journaling, it helps. I could be better at it, but lately I've been kind of slacking a little bit. So, I got to pick my pace back up on that. So anyways, that was the recap, and I will be talking about ignoring your inner truth. Okay, so that's going to be my first slide today, and that slide is called, give me a second, is when you're ignoring your inner truth. Okay, your inner voice used to be your outer voice. Your inner voice used to be your outer voice. And you're like, Mitchell, what do you mean? Right? So let me start out with this quote, which I like, which is, we are all faced with a series of great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. So what does that mean? It means that life throws a lot of opportunities at us. But then we somehow tend to talk ourselves out of it, whether it's approaching that person, whether it's applying for that job, because you're like, well, why would they ever hire me? Like, there's plenty of other better people that they could hire. So what's the point of me wasting my time? What's the point of me approaching that person? I'm going to get shot down anyways, right? Well, if you don't do anything, the answer is always no, right? So we're always given a lot of opportunities, but then you start telling yourself, oh no, this won't work. What's the point? Why is this even important? And then it becomes normalized in your head. And when it becomes normalized, you're going to feel comfortable living in that type of mentality. So, like I said, really be careful what you consistently tell yourself. What is the story that you tell yourself? Because if that is if that's your inner voice, what happened in the past? Because your inner voice used to be your outer voice. Now, let's talk about childhood trauma, right? Whether it comes from siblings, parents, bullies, maybe even teachers. Like I had in my life, I had some shitty ass teachers where I had, because I was a class clown. I used to joke a lot, if you can't already tell already, right? I like to have a good time. And that keeps me up. Okay, now, this was in middle school, so Mitchell was a lot younger, right? But I was like, I used to joke around a lot. I used to talk. I made some mistakes. So, I had a teacher. He basically said, you're not gonna amount to anything in life. Like, this is how you are, blah blah blah. Or maybe, maybe that came out of frustration because he couldn't teach what he wanted to say because I was talking. But it's just those little things that it could latch on. Like, did he just say something that affected my entire life? Like, just those little things, right? Like, how is it that I still remember that till this day? How is it that I still remember that? But it's not something that latch on to me where I can't let go. It's just something that I remembered, right? Like, I know what he says is not true. It's not true. So, but it's just now it becomes funny because I'm like, no, I found something that I really enjoy, right? But as a kid, that's all I think about. I'm like, wow. And then you go back home, then being constantly bombarded with like maybe your siblings or your parents, and then you might have bullies at school, right? Like, there's a lot of things, and those little outer voice become your inner voice, and that's when you kind of internalize it. That's when you start believing in it, and then you go out to the world kind of like, well, I have all these opportunities, but I shoot it down because it's disguised as, look, this is impossible, I won't be able to do it. And so be careful with those type of voices that you're really listening to. And every little unhelpful message we internalize begins to sound like the truth, right? So, kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, where it's like those little unwanted messages, those unhelpful messages, we start internalizing them, and it becomes this reality in our mind. And all the while, your environment consistently telling you you're not good enough too. It's kind of like, well, see, this is why it's true, right? Like, see, I did try and I did get shot down. So, but you have to remember that that is not your identity. Just because someone said no to you doesn't mean that's who you are. It means that, hey, you can't really control that, right? What's up, Shevlin? How are you? Um, let's see. So, those of authority constantly repeating those messages until we can't unhear it anymore, right? And it's funny because once they say it so much, you don't even hear their voice anymore. You just hear your own. And like I said, you start to internalize it. And when you internalize your own inner voice and you're constantly telling yourself, like, this is the truth of me, this is how you're gonna live. And when you live like that, you feel like life isn't really worth living for, right? Like, you go out like, what's the point? Why am I gonna do this? And that's why you really got to be careful of what you tell yourself. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. He's a German philosopher. I'm gonna try. All right, Friedrich Nietzsche. I don't think I did bad. Friedrich Nietzsche. Okay. Anyways, so I posted this quote earlier, but it was, the strength of a person's spirit would then be measured by how much truth he could tolerate. Okay, so how much truth you could tolerate kind of defines who you are. It kind of characterizes you. It's how much truth you could take. And when people start telling you certain things, it's like, do you take it as criticism, or do you take it as they're trying to help me? Maybe it didn't come across the way I wanted to hear it because of the tone or whatever it may be, but how much can you take? How much truth can you take? So if someone come up to me and be like, hey, Mitchell, this is why you're not as successful at this or whatever, right? And I have an option of, do I want to listen it through the lens of this person is trying to help me, or can I gain something good from it? And it depends on how you regain back to your center. So if you're always in a shitty mood, or you find yourself in a shitty mood very easily bothered, kind of like being around someone that's kind of walking on eggshells, you're going to constantly find yourself in that situation where you're like, any little thing will piss you off. But unless you're super happy, but being there requires a lot of work. So you constantly find yourself back down here, right? So yeah, it's how much truth someone could tolerate. And so here's the thing. And there's three things that I want to talk about, which is most people issues or inner voice, that's their internal dialogue is not really great. There's three things, right? Where one, most people run away from those. Number two, others try to cover it up. And number three, this is the least amount, which is, and only a few faces their own shadows, meaning like there's some past traumas that I have, some childhood traumas or whatever traumas I had in the past that very few people actually turn around and look at it and be like, yo, I need to fix this shit. I need to hear this out. Like, why am I still being held back by this? So whatever past traumas it is, a little simple personal story is silly, but I mean it did happen. But and some of you guys may already know, but I used to not like Michael Jackson a lot. And surprisingly, because my movements are very inspired by his moves, right? I'm a dancer. So I'm like, it's because when I was a kid and my mom would go to work, I had two older siblings. So my two brothers would turn off all the light, and it's late, right? So my mom comes back home late, and so like Thriller comes on, right? That kind of tells you my age already too. Thriller comes on, right? So they turn off all the lights, they take away all the pillows, they take away all the blankets, and one of them's holding the door so that I can't leave. The other one is inside with me, scaring the shit out of me with a remote and the volume turned all the way up. And those who watch Thriller, he changes, okay? He turns into a monster. So as a kid, when he's like turning around and he is like, of course I'm gonna be scared. So I was traumatized, right? But that was the type of environment that I was in. But then, yes, it's silly, but it was a fear. I had a genuine fear of Michael Jackson. I'm like, this guy, if I listen to him, he might just pop up and turn into a monster, and I don't want that fear. But it wasn't until I got a little bit older, I was like, you know what? I'm a little older now. Yeah, I'm old, but I still don't like Michael Jackson. So what I ended up doing was I was like, you know what? Maybe if I just listen to it, I know he's gonna turn, but if I listen to it at lower volume, I might be able to like adjust to his, him turning into this monster werewolf. And so, I did. And that's when I was like, all right, cool. And then I start learning, then I start listening to Michael Jackson. And then, of course, like great things happen. I started becoming more inspired by his dance moves and whatnot. But it was, yeah, like it sounds silly, but at the time it was a real thing. So as a kid, those are my past traumas. And not a lot of people like to face those. Not to throw my sister-in-law under the bus, but she don't like pigeons. She don't like pigeons. Until this day, she don't like pigeons. It's because when she was a kid, her older siblings did some things to, cause her to not like pigeons, okay? So even till this day, when she sees pigeons, she's like, Mitchell, can you walk first? I'm like, sure. So yeah, cool. But I hope that helps. I hope that helps you. It gives you a little bit like of insight. If there's some past traumas that you have, face those. I know it sucks, but you gotta face it, right? If it causes you to have these type of feelings, and I'm not a therapist, but if you have a therapist, a good therapist will actually bring you to this place where it allows you options to kind of face your own shadows, your things that scares you and stuff, so that you're no longer being held back or having that weight on your shoulder from that, right? Which allows you to move forward a lot quicker and easier. So most people run away from it, others try to cover it up, and only a few faces their shadows, right? Some run away from it by distractions, right? Constantly trying to like numb themselves. And this is where you kind of get creative, whether it's through, hey, maybe it's through listening to music. And there's nothing wrong with music, and there's nothing wrong with watching Netflix. But if that is your solution to get away from the problems that you already have, then it might become an issue. Covering up, some people like covering up, meaning they like to. So here's another example of covering up. Okay, hold on, let me read Jackie's about trauma. I just discussed it with someone about attachment styles, but that's another video. I actually have a few things I want to talk about attachment styles too as well, but covering it up. So say for example, growing up poor, right? That was a real thing in our household. So it's like then you feel like you have to prove to somebody that, oh, I need to make a lot of money so that, or here's a perfect example. when I was a kid, I didn't get a lot of shoes. Okay, I had this trauma. I remember back in middle school, 7th grade. It was raining, and I had this shoe. This shoe, literally, the outsole, the bottom of the sole, detached, and it was raining. So obviously, it was not a good sight. So a lot of water seeped in, and it caused my feet to feel like a raisin for, like, I don't know, 8 to 2, 3 o'clock. So that's a lot of time of soaking in that. Yeah, it was uncomfortable, it smelled bad. So it's, yeah. Anyways, because of that, I was like, oh yeah, so I started buying a lot of shoes. So Mitchell, I have a lot of shoes, but I was like, I hope it didn't come from that past trauma, because I was like, I didn't have shoes back then. I had shoes that spoke to people when I'm walking. It flaps. It was like it would be a great TikTok nowadays, right? But I was like, so now I have a lot of shoes. I was like, but I have to really understand, like, did that stem from that? Like, did part of it stem from that? And the answer was yes, a little bit. Yeah, because I didn't have shoes, and now, and yeah, I could think about it like, and this is a cover up. This is the cover I'm talking about. So I get all these shoes so that I would never be in that situation again, right? But it wasn't until I learned to have to let that go, where I'm like, look, yeah, it was a bad experience. Shit sucked. It didn't go my way. Kids laughed at me. It smelled bad, right? Of course, you're stuck in your own shoe with soaking water or rainwater in it for hours and hours. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. So you're gonna have a bad experience. But I had to, like, bring it up. I had to feel that, and then once I felt that, I was like, all right, I was able to let that go. And so now I'm like, yeah, I have shoes, but for the reason of, because I enjoy it. I enjoy wearing those shoes, especially when I get to dance in it too. I'm like, ooh, I get a little something for myself, right? So it doesn't, it's not a solution to what happened to me before, just to cover it up. But it's more of like, I get it because I like it, I enjoy it, and it doesn't hurt my feet. So yeah. Now, going back to what Jackie said about trauma and how attachment styles, be careful with that too, because when it comes to attachment styles, a lot of people like to use those quote unquote attachment styles based off, it's kind of like, oh, astrology signs, like, oh, she's a Gemini, so she's gonna be acting like that. Like, even with attachment styles, no matter what type of attachment styles they have, or what you have too as well, even a normal healthy woman would still react a certain way. Like, if you bombard her with messages, she's eventually, no matter how healthy she is, she's going to back away, because she feels like, damn, like, he's taking up a lot of my time. So, and then you could easily say, is like, oh, that's just her type of attachment style, so like I said, be careful of defining that or using that as an excuse, right? Not to take away from it, when you don't have much, when you don't have much, or make harder than the next person, and learn to enjoy without, or learn creative ways to get it. When you don't have much, you are made harder than the next person. Yeah. Okay, I had to read that twice. But yeah. So you're going to be put in a position where your mess becomes your message too, right? Where you could actually speak to people and be like, look, this is some things that I went through. Hope you guys don't have to go through this. And that's how some people could relate. And people that could relate to other people, it's like, yeah, that's great. She brought it up. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, also it also could be her excuse to be like, oh, this is just how I operate, because this is like, but what I'm telling you is, even a healthy, normal person would act like that. Like, think about it. If someone bombards you with 1,000, especially you're a girl, you have like, I don't know how many messages, right? Especially if you're wanted, especially by a lot of men out there. So you're gonna get a lot of message. You're gonna be like, fuck, I gotta deal with all this. And then now this person, I used to like him more, but you somehow talked yourself out of her liking you, because you just constantly, and then she just uses, and to you it makes sense, because it's like, oh, that's just her attachment style. So it kind of absolves you from the problem that you need to solve for yourself. It's like, no, maybe you spoke a little bit too much. So maybe just hold back a little bit instead of saying like, oh, that's just the attachment style. So that's just, I just want to say that. Um but anyways, so I talked about running away, right? Numbing yourself, right? Get creative. Sometimes Netflix and yada yada yada, covering up. Me with the shoes example, but actually facing your shadows. That's how you solve your problem. That's how you find a solution so that you don't have it doesn't run you. You know what I mean? And those are your subconscious thoughts. So subconscious, no, even if I mean, it's subconscious for a reason. If you don't think about it, just because you don't think about it doesn't mean it's not there, right? It comes up when life pressures you. Kind of like the example I always use, which is, what happens when you squeeze an orange or a lemon, right? You get lemon juice or orange juice. So whatever you are, and when life pressures you, that's what's gonna kind of gush out, right? So if you're more of at peace with yourself, and you're a happier person to be around, you're not easily bothered, you're not perturbed easily, and when life pressures you, you're like, okay, this kind of sucks. It's not the best feeling, but I know how to handle it. I got this. Or if you're in a shitty place and your girl comes home and you always find yourself consistently being pissed off, things didn't go your way, right? Circumstances like I wanted to wash my car, but the weather's not allowing it because it's raining, so you get mad. It's silly, but yeah, that's a real thing. People get mad at the weather, right? And when that happens, it's like, what can you control that weather? Can you really, like, the only way I could think about controlling that weather is maybe going to a different location, right? So it's like, how good are you finding solutions? And the more you do it, the better you become from it, and the better the more competent you are, the less likely you're gonna feel mad. Because being angry, like I said earlier, the reason why you're mad or angry is because your needs are not met, right? Just like your needs of, I need to wash my car, but it's raining. So I'm laughing because it's a real thing. Like I hear people get mad at the anyways, yeah, so that's ignoring the truth. So when you do it when you do it long enough, like your body starts to internalize it. It feels normal, right? And just because it feels normal, like, you still got to reevaluate. And what you don't know, you don't know. But ignorance is not bliss. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it's not happening. And when it does happen, if it's not in your favor, then you got to do something about it. Okay? So facing your fears is what fixes internal dialogue. Okay. I want to talk about resentment. Okay, resentment, because we all have that. We all have resentment. It depends on how you view it, what's your approach on it. But before I continue, is there anything that I can answer for you guys? Can I answer anything? Also, side note, Billionaires Boys Club released Pokemon hoodies and shirts and stuff. I didn't get any because one, I was hoping it was sold out, but when it was sold out, I couldn't get it. Knowing that, because it was sold out, so here I am, trying to make myself feel better by wearing a Charizard shirt. All right. All right. So let's talk about resentment. WebMD states that resentment is triggered when relationships with people who insist on being right all the time. How many of y'all been around people that wants to be right all the time, and then you're gonna gotta fucking deal with this motherfucker again, or and usually it's because, like, do you find yourself needing to be right all the time? Like, are you that person, right? Not just the other person feeling that they need to be right, but are you that person too? And if you are, maybe some of the consequences of that is people might not want to be around you. Okay. And or feeling like you always need the last word, or you have to always say something about something happening. Here's a great example. Great friend of mine. I was at their house. We was having a great time. uh this friend had another friend that, is a stranger to me, so I don't know who this person was. So I was like, hey, nice to meet you. My name is Mitchell, right? Properly introduced myself, yada, yada, yada. Now, remember when I was telling you about how life pressures you or how you view things and how you see things in your eyes? Now, to put it in more simple terms, what happened was I was there. I was nice about things. I was, kind of like, hey, nice to meet you. My name is Mitchell. And, I was like, yeah, I don't want to drink, because I got to drive. And, it's Friday. I don't want to be, I don't want to be driving because I know cops are out there. They're more alert, right? It kind of rings more of a bell. It's a Friday night at 11 o'clock, 11, 12 o'clock, and I still got to drive back home, which means that they're more inclined to be like, hey, you know what? People party around that time. And that's when they're like, hey, DUIs being passing out like Jolly Ranchers, right? So I was like, nah, I don't want that, right? And then so he made a remark, right? He made a remark about like, oh, this guy don't drink. He's not a man. All right, sure. All right. So I kind of took it like a grain of salt. I was like, maybe he's just having a bad day. Second time comes around, I see this guy again. I didn't, of course, like, I'm not gonna have like, I'm not excited to see this person. I kind of just tolerate that person now, right? Be where you're celebrated, not where you tolerate it. And so I'm there, and I'm just like, I see him again. And he says, dude, this guy, he literally said, why do you keep inviting this guy if he doesn't drink? I was like, all right, I'm done. I don't need to be around you. I was like, look, you're my homie. That's your friend. I'm not going to make you choose. But please don't invite me if he's there. I'm okay without being around him, okay? I'm okay being by myself. But if you are going to invite him, please just don't invite me. I don't want that type of assholeness in my life. Like, I don't need it. But if that's that's your homie, that's your friend, you do what you gotta do, right? So find time. Just please don't invite me because I want to hang out with you because you're my boy. But yeah, it's like those people that always feel like they have to have the last word, that needing to be right all the time, right? Like, that's how resentment built. I don't want to hate that person. I already dislike this person. I don't want to hate him. Okay. Now, being taken advantage of. Here's another one. Resentment is being triggered. So being taken advantage of other people, feeling put down, right? I mean, he did 2 and 1 in that night. Unrealistic expectations of others, and I want to put into and yourself, because when you set yourself expectations that's almost impossible to be met, you're gonna find yourself disappointed easily. So be careful, right? But unrealistic expectations of other people, that's how you trigger resentment. Not being heard, interactions with people, who are like just constantly finding, being late. And so you can find this on WebMD as well. But signs of resentment is being unable to let go. Okay, unable to let go and forgive. And reoccurring negative feelings. Okay, and it's common to feel recurring negative feelings toward people or situations that hurt you, right? These emotions may include anger. So being mad. I talked about being angry. Angry is a sign that something needs to change, right? It's also something that your needs are not being met. Being frustrated, hostility, bitterness, hard feelings, uneasiness. Now, to some degree, where it's not that I didn't need to let go of that, but I was like, this person is not important to me, and I come here to have a good time, and it's much easier to not be around that person, because I just know like he's gonna start saying, I don't want to be in a position where I might need to like cuss this guy out, right? Like, I'm be like, yo, you're a dick. Like you're being an asshole. Like, what's going on? Like, are you all right? I don't want to be in a being put in a position like that, because I could get kind of smart with like, here's a great way of like making that other person feel like they they got the last words, but you're really asking them a question that they can't really answer themselves. So it puts them in a situation where it feels like you're giving them that power because you're asking them a question. But it's like, yo, why do you always act the way you act? And then they feel like they have the power, like, oh, then they have to justify themselves, right? But if you know about, like, I don't know a lot about sales, but anyone in sales, that's the one that's asking the questions is the one that has control over the conversation. All right. So when you ask those questions, they have to feel like they have to justify or answer it in a way that maybe they want to please your ears, or expressing how they feel, right? But yeah, anyways, I don't want to be put in that position. That's what I didn't want to be in. So also resentment is, it also, like, it's a lot of this me energy of, like, this is what happens when life pressures you, like the me energy, like this, what I'm not getting, what I'm not receiving, you're not giving me this, right? Whether it's from, like, your job, your partner, friends, or family. And so, like, that's how all these resentment is being built, right? So how to resolve resentment is by actually letting go and forgiving that person, and just be like, hey, but just because you let go and forgive them, it doesn't mean you have to be around them. It's just like, because they're not going to be good company for you. So why would you put yourself in, unless you want a challenge, right? I think there's different challenges that you could take on, and that's not a challenge that I want to be at. You know what I mean? So, now, ignoring your inner truth, and you guys already know, I spoke about this before, but it's because your inner truth, when you ignore it, or you run away from it, or you try to cover it up, and what you say is not in alignment, right, or parallel to what you're saying, is it conflicts with our reality. I have suppressed resentment. Let's talk about that a little bit, Jackie. But the reason why we find ourselves constantly being so unhappy, or whatever it is that you're dealing with, is because, okay, it could be as simple as, maybe you're lying to your friends, right? Maybe you're lying to your friend, or maybe you really just don't care, okay? But anyways, hear me out. You ever had those type of friends where, like, you're maybe even you did this yourself, and okay, so there was a story, this is video where I saw this guy. He was showing how, like, to shoot a gun, and he's like all, like, holding, he didn't have his hand on a trigger, but he was like, this is how you hold a gun, blah blah blah. And so some guy's, like, recording it, and the other guy next to him was, he's learning how to shoot the gun, I guess. And he was like, yeah, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden it's like, bang, and he hits his home face. So he shoots that, so a bullet flew out, recoiled, hit his face. The guy that was recording that video was like, hey yo, did you mean to do that? He was like, yeah. And then he goes back and continues to talk. I'm like, all right. And a part of that is, like, little things like that, where you start to lie, even those little tiny white lies or whatever, and it does not align with your reality. Like, did you mean to do that? Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course. It's funny for us, but, like, you constantly find yourself doing stuff like that, just those little tiny lies, and it conflicts with your reality, then you're going to find yourself disappointed. You're gonna be upset. Things don't go your way, right? And it's because you constantly not telling yourself the truth. So maybe it's like, oh, look, I'm just not that great at this. But then you try to over glorify what your skills really are. But in reality, people are like, you're really not that good. And just admit that you're not that good, and that's okay. Be a little vulnerable. Hey, yo, I'm not that great at this, but I know that if I give myself some time, I will be better, right? I'm not going to be a professional in even a year. I know it's going to take time, but at least I'm in an honest place, an authentic place. And that's what people could relate to, because everybody is always fighting something like that, all right? Now, some people better than others, but everybody has some kind of truth that they're telling themselves that when they speak is different from how they feel inside, and that's why it conflicts with our reality. And when it conflicts, you're gonna find yourself in disappointments. You're gonna lie to yourself, and when you lie to other people, this is what happens. I'm gonna repeat this quote because I love it, by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I said his name right. So a man who lies to himself and believes his own lies becomes unable to recognize truth. And I'm talking about the truth inside, okay? Unable to recognize truth, either in himself or anyone else. And he ends up losing respect for himself and for others. When he has no respect for anyone and himself, he can no longer love. And in him, he yields to impulses, indulges in the lowest form of pleasure, and behaves in the end like an animal in satisfying his vices. And it all comes from lying. Lying about little things, and those shit stack up. It stacks. And just because you don't look at it, it doesn't mean it's not there, okay? There are consequences when you start ignoring those. Here's a simple example. I know a friend that purposely, this person does not like to look at their bank account, knowing that they don't have a lot of money. But I'm like, yo, why you keep swiping? Like you don't have a lot of money. Why you keep? Oh, it makes me happier. Okay, well, do you know like how much you got? Because it seems like you already know you don't have a lot. So how are you gonna be paying for it? Well, I'll just worry about it at the end of the month when I need to pay for it. I was like, I'm not gonna control your life, but I'm just saying like, hey, if you don't, and it's because there's a word for that. There's a term for that. I don't remember off top, but it's they're trying to absolve themselves from that problem by not looking at it. It doesn't mean the consequences aren't there, right? What book is very relevant to me? That's Fyodor Dostoevsky. That's just a quote that I got. But I'll send that to you, okay? I'll send that to you. Anyways, and are you talking about conflicting with our reality? If it is, then I have that book for you. I thought you was talking about the quote. But anyways, now we become resentful because our internal dialogue doesn't match our reality. Okay, repeatedly saying so. There's these chants that that people have you say to yourself. You see it maybe sometimes on Instagram where your friends or whatever that don't really feel good about themselves, they post quotes. And they're like, I am worth it. I deserve more, right? I am better than this, right? They don't deserve me. And I think those are good quotes, okay? I think those are good quotes. It's just that if it does not align to what you really truly feel about yourself inside, when you say I am worth more, but in reality, you don't even believe in yourself that you're worth that much, then it conflicts. And when it conflicts, you're lying to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, you're going to find yourself always being like, how do you feel when someone lies to you? How do you feel when someone lies to you? You don't like it, right? You're like, motherfucker lied to me. Like, I'm gonna take revenge, right? Or you try to like pull up the story that, or whatever it is that you're going to have some sort of revenge. But then when you lie to yourself, what kind of revenge will you have against yourself? How are you going to take revenge to yourself? You can't. So you're stuck. And when you're stuck and you're lying to yourself, you got nowhere else to run. You're trapped in a corner. You get frustrated, right? Because you're angry. And it's because you're fearful. You're fearful because you don't have a way out. And it all comes from lying. So if you find yourself in that situation, yeah, it's going to suck because you're lying to yourself. Be honest, be truthful. And not a lot of people can relate to that. And the reason why is because we have to put up this front in order to be liked. And when you're putting up this fucking front, what's going to happen is you're going to live through life reinforcing this front. A lot of people can't see it, but just because it's shiny outside, the inside's like rotting. And you're supporting this front. What happens when that front falls? What happens then? Everything gets revealed. That's your character, right? And you got nothing else to support that. But let's just say you worked internally, you started speaking the truth, and you don't even have this front, because this front requires a lot of energy to be someone you're not, to always constantly, and to some degree people have to put up a little bit, but eventually you want to break out of that shell and don't require that front. And it takes time. I'm not saying like, oh, just drop the front completely. Like, maybe sometimes you got to put just a little bit for a little safety net for yourself, and then allow yourself to be yourself around those people. And if they accept you, they accept you. If they don't, that's all good, because there's going to be other people that will want your type of genuineness, your authenticity, and that is fucking rare. Okay, that's scarce. And if you know this, your competition is not competition anymore. Okay. And but even then, just because you know all this, it doesn't mean you're going to be liked by everybody. Okay. It means that you're just aligning yourself with the people that you want into your life. So but anyways, I digress. I want to continue on with this. But yeah, that's like lying to yourself, right? Saying that I'm worth more and all this. Nothing is more true than what you consistently tell yourself. Nothing is more true. And what I mean by that is, just because it's and what I mean by that truth is, what when you tell yourself that, that's what you believe. Whether it is true, like real or not, truthful, that is true to you because you're consistently telling yourself that. So that's why I say, like, the whole fake it till you make it thing, it does not work. I feel like that's old, that's kind of out of date. And it's you're putting up this front, and you're supporting this front that requires a lot of energy. That it's like this, I need to do this, I gotta push, I gotta become this person that I'm really not, right, in order to succeed. And it's like, why can't you just be yourself? And if you suck at it, just become better, knowing that it's going to take time and there's no shortcuts, and then become more than you are, while still be grateful for all that you got. So, but it takes time, and people want things fast. They want things in an instant. And just because you don't say it doesn't mean your mind isn't thinking it. So your mind and how you react will act consistently to how you view yourself. Okay? So if you're, the example was, if you're always upset, or you easily get triggered, right? Everyone likes using that word. You easily get triggered, whether it's like a red light that turned yellow and that person went too slow in front of you. You're like, you get mad. It's like, all right, it's going to turn green. It's just not what you want, right? But yeah, your mind, that's how your mind and how you react will act consistently to how you view yourself. Many people find ways to distract themselves until they sleep, right? They come home, distractions, Netflix, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is, and they don't invest into the time of listening to themselves. And so like that's why I was like, I stared at the wall for at least 10 minutes and I started laughing. I had a great time. Like, I had tears coming out of my eyes because I was laughing so much. But I was like, no, I had a great time. And other people, look, I get it. Y'all might think, Mitchell, you're fucking crazy, right? But I had a great time. And it's because I remembered like a funny thought, and I was like, wow. And then my mind, if I could edit this video, there would be like that little emoji with that mind explodes. So it sounds like, learn the right mentality, then practice it, internalize it instead of faking it. Absolutely. You got it. Hit the nail on the fucking head, Jackie. Right on. Yeah, and it's because it's like people that needs to put up this front. Yes, I'm not saying, okay, here's this. It's better than doing nothing, because there are people that's like, that just completely gave up. What's the point? I don't even want to fucking try. It's better than doing nothing. The whole faking it till you making, it's better than doing nothing. But like I said, first it requires intention. What is your intention? Are you trying to get people to like you? Okay, who doesn't want to be liked, right? But if this requires so much energy, like for example, being around rich people when you're poor and you're trying to like buy expensive clothes just to fit in, and you can't support yourself because of that finance, but you like those people, like those are your best friend, whatever, right? I'm just giving you an example. It's like, be honest with yourself. Just be true to them. Like, hey, look, guys, I know you guys could you could buy all the Louis Vuitton, Balenciagas, and whatnot, and all these expensive clothes. I don't gotta like that. I don't. I don't. But I like hanging out. I like hanging out with you guys. You guys make me, whatever, right? Like, we have a good time. I enjoy laughing with you. I like how we could talk about shit, and I can't support that because my bank account doesn't reflect those Gucci belts that y'all wearing different ones every week, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, if they're cool with it, they'll be like, yo, you know what? Hey, don't even stress about that. Like, that's not important to me. Like, what's more important is that you're here, we're having a good time. Like, isn't that a whole lot better than like, oh, I always need to take out money that I can't, you got to take a loan to buy a belt. They don't do layaways on a Gucci store, you know what I mean? So it's like, look, just be truthful. Hey, I don't got it like that. Is it? Yeah. And doesn't that require a little bit of vulnerability? Absolutely. It sucks because there is a chance where they're gonna deny you. Oh, you don't got money, so why the fuck are you hanging around with us? Like, get away. That's real. But at least you know who you're aligning with. And it might suck in the beginning because you're like, oh, I lost some friends. Like, these people used to be were they really your friends? Were they really your friends? Because if material things is required to be friends, then they're not real homies. They're not real friends. So it's like, well, then are you honest with yourself? But yeah, it requires a lot of courage, and it requires a lot of vulnerability. But vulnerability is what gets you to grow and to become better than you are. Also, action. You still gotta take action. You just can't be vulnerable and be like, just letting people know, and then nothing comes out of it, right? You still gotta work on yourself. But it starts from that. It starts from being aware, being honest to yourself, and then moving forward with whatever required action that's needed to progress. So that's what we need. That's what we need. Let's see. Okay. And last thing about on this slide is, it's gonna happen, but you're only delaying the inevitable. I can't say this word. Inevitable. It's gonna happen, but you're only delaying the inevitable. Still a difficult word. All right. You can suppress it all you want, but when life pressures you, whatever, life will always come with obstacles, whatever circumstances. And when life puts that type of pressure on you, what's gonna happen? What's gonna kind of gush out, right? So, and that's who you are. That's your character, and character is destiny. Character is destiny. That's who you're gonna be. Okay. And lastly, this I don't have a title for this. I mean, that was on me, but let me just talk about this. Okay. I really like this quote. She's relatively new to me. I think she's a doctor of psychology. She's kind of new. Okay. So her name is Shadi, Shade, Shadi Zarai. She's on YouTube. Go check her out. Really pretty lady too as well. Very attractive. So people who truly believes that, so there's a quote from her. People who truly believe that their life is meaningful tend to tell stories defined by growth, empowerment, and hope. You see how it's more on the collaborative mindset where you're talking about growth, you're talking about empowerment, right? Like, you're supporting. And don't get me wrong, there's negative associations with empowerment too, right? And that's a very political thing, which I'm gonna kind of touch base on. And hope, right? Hope. So there's more on a collaborative mindset. So if you find yourself having a more meaningful life, and you view things as the cup being half full, right? And you're constantly trying to fill up your own cup first before you try to please other people, then you're gonna find yourself in better company because you can't get what you don't have. And so when you're in that type of, and your life is more meaningful, you have more things. Got a jet, lots of. All right, thanks, Greg. Appreciate you, man. Um, so yeah, collaborative mindset and the story that you consistently tell yourself whether will either contaminate you or it could refine you. And it starts from, and if you want to refine yourself, you're going to have to put yourself in a situation where, yes, you're going to have to be vulnerable. Yes, it's going to fucking suck sometimes because, hey, I'm vulnerable and some people might tease me for it. They might use it as ammunition for themselves, right? But so that's why you got to really be careful who you share good news and bad news to. But regardless, you have to share that news to yourself, whether you like it or not. Because if you ignore it and you're aware of it, that is almost just one of the worst things that you could do because you know it and you're unwilling to change. And some people, and this is what I also learned recently too, where it's like some people choose to aim up and some people choose to aim down. And I could be the best fucking teacher, coach, whatever I am to them. And if they don't want to learn, there's nothing I can do. But also, I have to protect myself because someone that is aiming down could drag someone that's aiming up. But no matter how good I am, I can't bring someone down that does not want to move up. Like there's nothing that I can do. So I have to understand. I have to be respectful. And maybe the best thing is to let them be where they're at because they are unwilling to change and that's on them. And that's okay. That's how they want to choose their life. And everybody has to, and look, as long as they're not hurting me, that's okay. And I have to be willing to let that go. And especially if it's like a friend or a family and I see them and like I have the resources, it's like, and I feel like they're not using it. It's like, yo, it kind of sucks. Like I could help you. And it's like, well, they just don't want to. Now, the only responsibility that you have is if you have the resources, show it to them. And it's up to them if they want to change or not. Okay, that's your only responsibility. It's not your job to force feed them water. Okay, that horse to the water analogy. So yeah, so you just got to be respectful on that sense too as well. Anyways, I'm going a little bit over. I'm almost done. Thank you guys for staying. Appreciate you. But anyways, the story that you consistently tell yourself could either contaminate you or refine you. But that story you tell yourself needs to match what you truly believe inside. So still, like what is that truth that you're telling yourself? Otherwise, you're going to find yourself conflicted. It starts with trying. Faking it till you make it. It's still better than nothing. Okay? So I said that earlier just because you always have another option. Just know that you always have the other option, which is telling yourself the truth. You're not good yet, but you got to do what you got to do. Work on that. You suck, work on that. Okay, I don't play good basketball. It's okay, just keep practicing, keep dribbling, aim. Okay, work on techniques, whatnot. Okay, I'm not good in relationships because I don't even have a good relationship with myself. That's the truth, right? So how many of you guys can tell yourself that I don't have a good relationship with myself? Does that take courage? Does that take vulnerability? Absolutely. Can you admit it? Okay, sure. If you can, then you're at the right pace. Okay, and then if you find yourself constantly having this kind of negative bias, right, then you got to change the internal dialogue. But when you change that internal dialogue, you also have to listen back. Like, is this honest? Is this honest to me? Look, you suck. Okay, I believe that, but why do I suck? If I do suck, well, how do I not suck, right? If that's your dialogue, that's what you're going to be telling yourself. Well, how do I not suck then? Well, maybe doing this, maybe doing that. But just know that it's going to take time. Just like working out for 5 hours at a gym that one day is not going to match up to 5 consistent 1 hour days, right? So it's going to take time. It's going to take consistency. There's not going to be shortcuts. You know what you got to do, but people don't want to do it. It's like, look, if you want to lose weight, it's going to take some time. Even if you starve yourself for 24 hours, it's not going to be as consistent as you doing it for like a week straight, but eating little less every time and eating healthier, nutrient-dense food and stuff like that, right? So, yeah, if you find yourself telling yourself, like, why I suck. Okay, well, why do I suck? how do I get out of this? Okay, so well, these are some necessary things that you need. Like, we all know our own answers. We're just unwilling to do it because we humans do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So it's that pain is like, damn, I have to go through all this, man. Forget it. Then I'd rather not have it, right? I hope things are like lighting up in your head. You're like, yeah, it makes a little sense, Mitchell. Like, it makes a little sense. Okay. So yeah, the next thing is so the next thing I did was look back into it, what I can change, like my health, exercise, what I eat, people who I hang out with, right? Because my environment, that's my type of environment. Uh, and immediately, when I say immediate, like I'm talking about a few weeks to a month, like I go back and I audit myself, like how was I last week? How was I last week? What are a few things that I could see from other people, and if I turn that mirror back on me, how am I? Like, it's easy for me to judge that person that I'm looking at, but let me judge myself. Like, okay, they're in a shitty spot. Okay, I get it. They could be doing all these good things to change themselves. Okay, that's great. But let me turn that mirror back on me. Do I need to change some of that? Do I need to change some of that? Because if I could spot it, and if I can't back it up, then I have no fucking rights to fucking say it to that person or even express it. So turn that mirror back on you. And then you're gonna start seeing a whole lot of changes for yourself. So yeah, so your health, what you eat, exercise, people who you hang around with, and immediately I started treating people better. And here's the example that I was gonna give, which was, same friends. I used to remember I used to be like kind of like an asshole, and I thought this was normal. Okay, making fun of people. Like, I'm like, yo, how the fuck did you drop that chicken like it was in your hand? Right? And it's like, and I thought that was normal. So I was like, and I remember saying that, and it clicked. Somewhere in my mind it clicked, and I was like, Mitchell, why do you say that? It's because it makes me feel like, one, I have the last word, and I feel good about myself, but it puts someone else down. But it's also, so that's very competitive. I'm always trying to beat that person. But if I'm trying to beat that person, it means that I am behind that person. I'm behind. Like, I'm not even doing it for myself no more. I'm doing it because I just don't want that person to succeed better than where I'm at. So yeah, I had to take myself back into it, and I'm like, all right, Mitchell, you need to shut the fuck up. Stop talking like that. So next time, yes, that person dropped the chicken, I'd be like, it's all good, man. We could just wash it. And he looked at me like, you would have criticized me. He didn't say it, but he was like, you would have criticized me. But he's not. I don't know. And immediately we just better company with each other. When shit happens, good, don't worry about it, man. It's all good, right? So yeah, that's the whole collaborative mindset. And some started to treat me better, and others stayed the same. And when they stayed the same and they start still treating me like shit, when I'm like, yeah, maybe I just don't need to be around them as much. So I distanced myself and I removed myself peacefully. So let me summarize this. When you ignore your inner truth, you're going to have a lot of conflict within yourself. Just think about how, when someone lies to you, how do you feel? And when that makes you feel this type of way, you feel like seeking revenge. And usually revenge is an outlet, right? Oh, I'm going to prove them wrong, or I'm going to slash their tires, whatever revenge that you're taking, right? But when that lie is within yourself, how do you revenge on yourself without hurting yourself? So you're conflicted. So it starts by telling yourself the truth, even if it sucks a little bit, because look, we don't like the truth sometimes, but it's better than lying to yourself, because you're going to find yourself constantly trying to satisfy, like an animal trying to satisfy their own vices, right? And start with the truth. And here's another solution for you guys, which is make small edits in your life, okay? Making small edits. Believe that if you want to live peacefully, you have to put in the work. You have to be honest with yourself. Be aware. Make small edits. Nothing's going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of time. But a great way to approach this, like anything that you do, is enjoying the process. And when you enjoy the process, it's fun for you. It's easy and effortless. So I don't know how else to even put it. When you enjoy what you do and when you better company for yourself, you're gonna love being by yourself, and you won't give your time to people that don't appreciate it or reciprocate. That being said, that is the end of the show today. I know I extended it a little bit more. I keep saying that every show. I've noticed that. So Mitchell needs to pack that in a little bit better. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Ignoring your inner truth. That was today. Just hit home a lot. And the last quote that I really enjoyed was that Friedrich Nietzsche, which was like the strength of a person's spirit would then be measured by how much truth that person could tolerate or he could tolerate. So if you find yourself not being able to tolerate truth, maybe that's the first step. If it bothers you that much, well, make small edits. Don't take truths in one day. Okay, maybe that might crush you. Maybe one. Start with one. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you for your time. Hope this helps. And if it did help, leave a comment. Leave a comment down below, because it will not only would it help me understand you a little bit better. Yes, I get it. This is the whole YouTube algorithm thing, but it lets me know that you're listening too. And I want to provide you guys more great content. Gonna start making shorter videos or long form 10 15 minutes. Yeah. Hope it helps. That being said, I catch you guys on the next episode on Tuesday. So I'll see y'all that night. Peace.